Hi everyone, this is Mark, and this blog post is a very important one. It's about the truth of vitamin D and what's the best forms of vitamin D you can get, and the sunscreen industry, right? Their deception to make you think that being in the sun is unhealthy, and how that's actually very bad for you, and you want to be in the sun properly. Okay, so that's what this whole thing's about here. So what we're going to do on this paper is expose the truth about vitamin D. We're going to look at how vitamin D is crucial to your body and to your health. All right. We're going to talk about the benefits of natural vitamin D. That's the type of vitamin D that occurs when you go out into the sun and expose your skin to the sun, and your skin will produce vitamin D naturally. We'll talk about the drawbacks of synthetic supplements and how bad they are for you. And this goes for almost all the supplements that you buy at the grocery store, the drugstore, or the big box stores. The reason they're so cheap is they're all synthetic and not natural, and they're rarely very good for you. So, if you're doing synthetic vitamins of any kind, just dump them. They're really not good for you. Always get your vitamins from whole foods instead of from those types of pills, right? Or if you need extra supplementation of specific things, make sure that you're getting whole natural forms of that supplement. And we're going to talk about what the sunscreen industry has done, why they've scared us of going out in the sun. You're not going to get sick going out into the sun. Okay, you really aren't. And actually, sunlight and walking outside in the air for most people is very important to your health. Right? There are very few people who cannot get better by having some exposure to the sun and to the air and outside and fresh air. Uh, it's really what you should be doing. So keep that in mind. Okay, what we want to talk about here is something that I use the term evolutionary context here. And when I say evolutionary context, I'm not denying God designed us and created us, right? What I'm saying is that there is certainly evidence that over time, especially if we look at the Neolithic and Paleolithic time frames, uh, and the archaeological evidence we have from that time frame of what human beings looked like and what their health was actually like to today, there has been adaptations in our health and in our bodies, right? And a lot of them come from diet, right? We were taller and healthier when we were eating a Paleolithic diet than when we were eating um, the uh, the grain heavy diet of the agricultural industry times. There is adaptation there. So I'm not denying that there have been some changes, right? But the idea is that we have to see them in context, proper context, right? And so the context of what we're looking for here right now is this idea of skin pigmentation, which is that when we were primarily based in equatorial regions, our darker skin allowed us to get the proper amount of natural vitamin D from sunlight that we were exposed to in the equatorial much higher amount of sun than as you get into northern climates or deep southern climates. So the further we migrated away from the equator, the more we needed, or less melanin we needed in our skin to make sure that we got more natural sunlight to help us produce natural vitamin D. And this is essential because you need vitamin D for multiple things like bone health and immune function. Okay, so let's talk about migration and skin pigment. So populations that have historically lived in high UV regions, right? And a perfect example are the Maasai in Africa. They evolved into having darker, right? And remember, evolved or adapted into having darker skin pigmentation that helps prevent excessive UV radiation damage. And this is a crucial idea here, right? Oops, sorry. Vitamin D synthesis in high UV regions, right? So because of the constant sun exposure, and their natural traditional diets, which is almost all beef and milk, right? The Maasai, they needed that allowed them to have very high levels of natural vitamin D, which is very healthy for them, right? But as populations moved away from the equator, right, then skin pigmentation changed to reflect the fact that they needed to get more sunlight into the skin to produce more vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important, right? Because vitamin D, natural vitamin D, that's synthesized by sun exposure on the skin, is important to overall health, highlighting this intricate relationship between sunlight, skin, and human survival. And which is why one of the things we always talk about is spend some time outside, walk during the day, get out in the park, play with your kids outside, right? You need some time outside. You don't want to be, stuck indoors 24/7. It's not good for you. Okay, so real quickly, once again, the historical data supports the idea that lighter skin developed to optimize vitamin D synthesis in areas with less sunlight, illustrating the critical role of natural vitamin D in human evolution. And that's all that means. Okay, modern day people, for the most part, we are vitamin D deficient. Okay, part of this is we shifted into indoor lifestyles, right? So you live mostly, you live mostly indoors, right? And you're not getting the sunlight on your skin. You're not getting that natural vitamin D, right? So that causes a vitamin D deficiency. We have replaced spending time outdoors in fresh air and sunlight with taking vitamin D supplements, which are almost always synthetic vitamin Ds, right? And the body does not respond properly to synthetic vitamin Ds. It does not replace sun exposure, okay? And this causes a dietary deficiency in vitamin D, right? And this also goes into the fact that we eat foods that which are we could normally be vitamin D rich. We don't eat them very much. We don't eat the fatty fish. We don't eat egg yolks, right? We don't eat fortified dairy products. And we're told those things are bad for you. The fat is bad for you. The fat is good for you. You need vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. Right? Actually, technically, it's a hormone, but the idea is it comes into fat, and you need that. Okay. If you don't get enough proper vitamin D, well, osteoporosis. Y'all heard about that? You hear all the commercials talking about that. Well, what do they tell you? Take synthetic vitamin D and calcium tablets. Well, that doesn't work properly. Don't take synthetic vitamin D. Okay, get some sunlight. Um, One of the problems with having low vitamin D levels is it's linked to cardiovascular disease, which is still the number one killer. So you want to make sure that you have proper natural vitamin D. It helps with hypertension, heart attack, stroke, and all those other things, and regulating blood pressure. So this is very important. Also, and this is very important in health, remember, spending a little time outdoors in the sun, getting fresh air, helps reduce stress. Stress is a killer, right? So it all comes together. Spend some time outdoors, right? There are certain cancers that seem to really pop up with a vitamin D deficiency, right? Specifically colon and breast and prostate cancers. So once again, for your health, go outside, get some fresh air, get some sunlight, okay? And once again, if you're not eating fatty fish, full fat meat, full fat dairy, especially fortified dairy, milk may not be the best one, but the cheeses and are usually a good source. Some people just don't deal well with milk. But there are plenty of good sources for vitamin D naturally that occur, right? So you want to do that. The benefits of natural vitamin D, and please pay very close attention to this. Vitamin D, natural vitamin that's synthesized from the sun in your skin, helps with your immune function. Okay? You have reduced vitamin D in your blood and in your body, you have a lower immune system, right? And you run the risk of some autoimmune diseases that way. Your bone health, right? We talked about osteoporosis. Vitamin D obtained through sun is crucial for calcium absorption and maintaining strong, healthy bones. Vitamin D, synthetic vitamin D, does not do that very well. Cancer prevention, we talked about that. And remember, the human body has been adapted to get all the vitamin D it needs from being out in the sun, right? Not from eating it from a pill. So, once again, or from a fortified milk product that has synthetic vitamin D added to it. Get out in the sun. Get natural vitamin D, which is what your body wants. Okay? This is really kind of crucial here, this statement. Okay? The comprehensive, sorry, I'm trying to get my little marker. Here we go. The comprehensive health benefits of natural vitamin D synthesis through sun exposure are unmatched by synthetic supplements. Right? You need to get this naturally, not artificially. Okay. Your immune function. Adequate vitamin D levels are crucial for a robust immune response. Studies have shown that higher sun exposure correlates. Now, correlation is not causation, but the correlation is strong enough that we can say, yeah, there's some evidence that this works. With a lower incidence of autoimmune diseases like multiple sclerosis, indicating the importance of natural vitamin D. Remember, once again, correlation is not causation, but if enough people who get a lot of good natural vitamin D don't tend to get this disease, that's something to think about. And once again, back to bone health. Vitamin D facilitates calcium absorption in the bones, which helps keep your bones strong. It prevents rickets in children. Synthetic vitamin D does not do a good job with that. Reduces osteoporosis, risk of osteoporosis. And one more time, human skin pigmentation has evolved to help us get lots of vitamin D through sun exposure on our skin. Don't be afraid of going out in the sun. Okay. Cancer prevention. We're all scared of cancer. Cancer is the number 3 killer, right? The number 1 killer is cardiovascular disease, right? Colon cancer prevention. Higher levels of natural vitamin D have been associated. This is once again an association, not a causation, with lower risk of developing colon cancer. Once again, the association is strong enough to say, yeah, this is probably a good idea. Breast cancer prevention, right? Once again, there's a good correlation here. It's strong enough that we can say, yeah, it's probably a good idea, right? And vitamin D, natural vitamin D regulates cell growth. And one of the reasons that cancer cells are dangerous is that they're unregulated growth, right? And they are metabolically different than regular cells, and so you want that immune function to be working properly, and so you want to maintain optimal vitamin D levels through natural sun exposure. Get out in the sun, right? Okay, let's talk about the sunscreen industry. And so the first thing is they tell you all these lies about how you're going to get cancer if you go out in the sun. Well, study after study has shown that the more sun exposure you have, the less risk of cancer you have. Get out in the sun, okay? If you're very fair-skinned, right? Yeah, you have to be careful for the first couple times you're out in the sun because you might have a tendency to burn. Don't burn. Burning is a too much sunlight which causes a burn is a problem. But a gradual increase of sunlight, your your skin will tan, and you will. And remember, tanning is just more melanin, right? Because you're taking in more vitamin D naturally. Your body will adapt right there on the spot to getting this. And for most people, even the very first, early spring, beginning of summer type exposure to the sun at the beach or the lake or something is usually a mild burn, hopefully at most. Don't go out there and get a bad burn, but don't put sunscreen on. Sunscreen is the worst thing you can do. Okay. What happens with sunscreen is that they're all designed to block UVB rays, and UVB rays um, stop you from tanning, but it's the UVA rays that are the one, and also stops you from producing vitamin D. But the UVA rays are the ones that are harmful, and they still tend to penetrate the skin, even with sunblock on. So you got to be really careful with that. Also, a lot of the sunscreens contain ingredients that you're putting on your skin, and your skin is one of the largest, if not the largest, organ in your body, and these are bad for you. These are phytosterols and all kinds of other chemicals that will be absorbed through the skin into your body and cause you all kinds of havoc. I really hate sunscreens. Okay, just don't use sunscreens. Okay, and the other one is they create a false sense of security. I'm lathered up in sunscreen. I can spend all day out in the sun. Well, if you're very fair skinned, right, you still have to watch how much sunlight you get until you start tanning, right? So you gotta be careful of that. Rely on your skin's natural ability to adjust to it. Build up your tolerance to sunlight. Don't rely on sunscreens, and definitely do not put it on your children. Your children do not need that. If they're really fair skinned, give them time to run out in the sun, and then make sure that they don't spend too much time initially. But by the end of the summer, the children should be bronze and healthy and getting all the vitamin D they need. Let them have sunlight. Okay? Because the idea, remember, you don't want to block the UVB. And I'm sorry, you don't want to just block UVB. UVB is actually what you want to produce the vitamin D. It also happens to be what makes you tan, right? The UVA rays are what's bad for you. So you want to make sure you don't use that, okay? Okay. So once again, they block the UVB, which is necessary for vitamin D synthesis. People who use sunscreen stay longer in the sun, and they actually will burn because the sunscreens do wear off. They sweat off. No matter how waterproof they are, if you swim, they'll wash off, right? And you'll still be exposed to harmful UVA rays. Okay, so just don't rely on the false sense of security with the sunscreen. And they don't prevent skin cancer, right? Research shows that they are not effective in preventing melanoma, the most dangerous form of skin cancer at all. Uh, it just doesn't happen. Sunscreens are sold as on a myth and a lie. Do not use sunscreens. Okay, well, I don't get out in the sun very much. How about I take a synthetic vitamin D? Well, here's the problem. D2 and D3, which are synthetic forms of vitamin D, which are the most common ones you'll find in all the vitamin tablets, are less effective in achieving optimal states of vitamin D. Your body just doesn't respond well to them. Okay, they are mismatched. They're not. Your body's not designed to use those. They're designed to make the vitamin D through your skin, right, in sunlight. And it's a very complicated biochemical process. These synthetic versions just don't do the same thing. This is what's important here, and this is crucial on the idea of synthetic vitamin D here. Synthetic vitamin D can lead to hypervitaminosis D, which is a condition associated with harmful effects on your kidney and cardiovascular health, right? You take vitamin D supposedly because it's heart healthy, but if you're taking vitamin D2 and D3, it's actually contrary to heart health, right? You don't want to use that, okay? And you want to let your body holistically balance what it needs to do, and it does that through sunlight and getting stress relief and just playing with your kids out in the sun, right? Uh, you don't want to break apart from that your body's physiological processes. Utilize them, make them work for you. Okay? The other thing, once again, as I mentioned, vitamin D supplements, especially D2 and D3, are less effective at increasing the proper levels of vitamin D, and your body just doesn't use them properly. Okay, there are health risks associated with synthetic vitamin, especially D2 and D3. Elevated calcium levels. Because these draw calcium, you actually get hypercalcium calcified, right? And that's dangerous. High calcium levels in the bloodstream are not good for you. One of the things I always talk about is stop taking calcium supplements if you're taking them. They're not very effective anyways. You get plenty of calcium from eating meat and fatty fish and egg yolks. Don't take calcium supplements. And if you're taking a calcium supplement that's loaded with synthetic vitamin D2 and D3, that's just compounding the error, right? So don't do that. Too much calcium in the bloodstream can cause kidney damage. So once again, you don't want to take synthetic vitamin D. You definitely don't want to take a calcium supplement with synthetic vitamin Ds. Okay? And cardiovascular risk. Now this is very important. One of the things we're all hearing about that we want to get rid of or get away from on here are plaques in your arteries, which cause blockages, right? And the plaques get calcified because there's too much calcium in the blood, right? And that's what causes plaques that break and cause stroke and heart attacks. So once again, it's a cardiovascular risk issue. Do not take synthetic vitamin Ds and do not take calcium supplements. Get your vitamin D naturally through the sun. Okay? Now, there's an evolutionary mismatch here, right? The human body has evolved to rely on natural sun exposure to synthesize vitamin D from cholesterol. Synthetic supplements fail to replicate the complex physiological process. That's why they don't work nearly as well, and many times they actually don't work very well at all. Okay, your body has been adapted to getting sunlight, and not only is it good for you because of vitamin D, but getting out in the sun a little bit is relaxing, right, for most people, right? And that helps reduce your stress, and it feels good. And you play with the kids, and that's relaxing, right? And take a stroll through the trees, fresh air, breeze. I mean, all this stuff helps you. So it all revolves around each other. You got to get that all together. Your body will maintain the optimal levels of vitamin D if you get out in the sun a little bit every day. Your body will maintain all the vitamin D you need. You don't need to supplement at all. So definitely get out in the sun. Don't use sunscreens, and eat healthy foods. High-fat fish, high-fat natural beef and lamb. These are very good to give you the optimal levels of vitamin D in addition to what your skin was producing for you, right? And lack of sun, well, and the reliance on synthetic can lead to health issues, right? Osteoporosis. We've talked about cancers, reduction in your immune function. Definitely make sure that you are getting natural forms of this and getting outside, get a little exercise. It's always good for you.